in this video, we would like to share about the kind of the power dynamics in a relationship. So power dynamics tend to be something that happens very subtly, it's in the background, it's not exactly obvious. But we'd like to take this chance to bring it up to light, to make the unconscious conscious. So, maybe you can start off with, what makes a party dominant? What makes one person more dominant than the other party? Kenny, would you like to share?
Yeah, so I'll take this question. So I think what makes a party dominant, right? I think people tend to give power to others whom they perceive have more of what society deems as good and hard to obtain. So and usually it's something that he or she wants for him or herself. So for example, people with more money, people with more power, or specific knowledge and skill, or age or education. So all these kind of helps people to gain more power over other people. And of course, the most natural one that we all have faced in our life is the parent-child dynamic. So, a parent has naturally more power over a child because, the child is very dependent on the parent for many of their basic needs as well. And when we grow up with our parents, a lot of our current mindsets and attitudes come from what our parents who were in power back then have told us about it, and we kind of shape our belief system as well. Another type of power is actually psychological power. So some people may not even have the physical things like money or power or knowledge or education, but they are just naturally more confident. So people who are more confident or assertive naturally seem more dominant to other people, and others tend to think that they are more powerful based on just their persona. So of course, this one also is dependent on how confident the other party is. So if the other party is not very confident, when he or she sees a more confident person, they will naturally attribute more power to them, and they will be swayed easily by these acts of confidence.
How do you know if there is a certain kind of power dynamic ongoing in the relationship? So first is if one person consistently has more say and influence than the other in decision making. The second is that one person usually controls the decision outcomes. So the decision follows this person's point of view more than the other person, and this happens consistently. The third one is that one person's priorities and points of view might usually be seen as being more important or more valid than the other person's. So I think an example is where one person tends to see things from a more objective and logical manner, but the other person tends to have a lot of emotional reactions. So sometimes it gets in a situation that the person who is more logical and objective gets seen as being more important and more valid, and the other person is just reacting and being too emotional and things like that, and became like less important or less valid as a result. Okay, fourth one is that one person is usually accepting the other person's decisions and just go along with it, whether or not the point of view are the same or different. And the fifth one is that one person is usually giving in to the other person when making decisions. So giving in is a bit different from accepting. So giving in, sometimes it means you compromise what you want or you give up on what you want to enable the other person to move forward or enable the whole situation to move forward. Yeah, so this summarizes the 5 symptoms of when you see that there's a power difference ongoing in the relationship. And as we've mentioned, it might or might not be a bad thing. It's actually quite neutral. It really depends on how we are using it and how it actually helps the whole situation from there. Yeah, so adding on to what Ning says, it really comes from this impression of the relative rank or the relative position. So whether a certain position, be it through money, through a position like a certain position in your workplace, or the knowledge, the age, the education, and so on, whether it creates a sense of rank, like this person has more than me, or I have more than that person. So it creates this sense of comparison, and a lot of times it's part of our perception. So now we're going to share a bit about what are the different ways that you might react to an authority figure? What a bit more about this actual and perceived rank with you. Ning, would you like to share?
Yep. So how does the impression of your rank against other people's rank affect you? So there's two kinds, right? One is an actual rank and one is a perceived rank, and both are also very important. So the first one, let's take your boss as an example. So your relationship with your boss. So your boss has an actual rank and a natural hierarchy over you in terms of status, in terms of prestige, power, to unlock certain things, usually money as well, experience as well as seniority. So that's the actual rank of the boss. Your boss may also have a perceived rank as well. So if you respect your boss, all the more you think that the boss has a higher rank. Of course, like if you don't really respect your boss, then your boss will fall into a lower rank as well. So it really depends on where you think your boss rank is. Both actual and perceived ranks will actually implicate how much power distance that you place between you and your boss. So it actually really directly affects how willing you are to speak your mind, especially if you have been conditioned from young on certain ways to treat authority. So for those who come from Asian backgrounds, usually, so from young we are taught to kind of listen to our parents or don't talk back. Or in class when we go to school, usually the lectures are conducted in a way where they just talk to you and you're not encouraged to ask questions or to question the authority. And this kind of mindsets might be ingrained in you, and you might bring it to the workplace as well, such that if you perceive your boss to be of a higher rank than you, kind of like the teacher-student dynamic in the past, then you will feel like, oh, I cannot ask my boss anything, I can't question his or her authority, I must listen to the boss. And then this actually causes a lot of people to go to great extremes for the boss, or do something that is against their belief system or their value system, and just because somebody in authority has told them to do so. So of course, we cannot assume that everyone treats an authority figure the same way. So there are multiple ways that you might react to an authority figure, also based on maybe how you're brought up or how you currently want to treat the other person. So the first mode is, we call it the subservient mode. So the subservient person would kind of say, okay, you are my boss, I will listen to you and do as you say, even if I don't agree. So a lot of people kind of fall into that category, especially if they say, okay, I'm just going to do my job, I'm just going to listen to you, whatever you say, I will do. So that's the mindset of a lot of people. There's another kind of mindset, which is like we call it the omega mode. So the omegas are people who don't like others to boss them around. So they kind of want to be on equal ground with everyone. And they kind of they have this like rebellious side to them and say that, if you tell me what to do, all the more I won't want to do it, especially if what you say seems senseless to me. Yeah, so I think as an example for myself, right, I realized that I sometimes operate in both subservient mode as well as omega mode. My natural tendency as a person is actually the Shan hierarchy. So my preference, the best for me, is that there is no rank, no senior person, no junior person. I don't like to be the leader, I don't like to be the follower as well. I just like to be my own person. And I think it's really because of my strong desire for personal freedom to do what I like, and correspondingly not imposing my views on other people as well. So I think this omega mode is kind of good and bad at the same time. Sometimes I feel that it's bad because society does require hierarchy for there to be an order, and it's really very hard to lead a team. Let's say I'm the leader, it's hard for me to lead a team if I'm not willing to make decisions without first consulting everyone. And similarly, there's certain moments where I should be the follower and listen to instructions. If not, we cannot get things done as well. So on the bright side, right, treating everyone the same is actually good because it helps every voice be heard and people feel like they have psychological safety to speak up. So by creating a non-hierarchical culture with no power distance, people feel like they are more being more of a team. Yeah. And of course, I do see another side of myself as well. Sometimes I choose to be more subservient, especially if the issue is inconsequential. So if the thing I see in front of me is quite small, it doesn't really matter to me what my boss thinks. If my boss asks me to do A, I'll just do. If my boss asks me to do B, I'll just do as well. Because to me, the issue doesn't seem like a big one. Yeah, so I see myself in these two modes. Not sure if Li Shen or Audrey has any other modes that you live by.
Yeah, I think this is a very relevant part, the subservient mode and the omega mode as a very natural mode that we kind of fall into. For me, for a very long time, I was in the subservient mode until I realized that being subservient and kind of just following and not choosing not to voice out, choosing not to do anything about situation when I see something is wrong, actually it really led to things being wrong. And that really taught me a lesson that whether or not I'm a follower or a leader or whichever position I am, I do have a responsibility, and all of us do have a responsibility towards the outcome of the whole team, or even the family, or towards that group that we are in. And it's and whether or not you choose to be 𝗫 𝗶 also has its consequences. Yeah, so I guess that comes down to the third mode, which is the conscious mode. So conscious mode is meaning that you are aware and you're mindful of your natural mode. Are you naturally more subservient or more of an omega mode, and not wanting to follow authority? And in the conscious mode, you can choose not to be affected by the societal rank and to view things more objectively, to share your opinions, but also be willing to take feedback. So you are not rebelling for the sake of rebelling, and you're not following for the sake of following as well, and trying to really act in the best interest of the team.
Great. So I think now we can move to the next part, which is on quiz questions relating to rank. So maybe we'd like to invite 𝗫𝘂 to share about that.
Yeah, okay. So I think we can do a bit of a quiz, like a fun thing. So to understand more about yourself, how is your internal ranking system? Meaning, naturally, how do you rank things? How do you see things? Maybe you see things as no rank, maybe you see there's a rank. Maybe it makes an impact on you, maybe it doesn't. So to understand more about this. So we're going to look at 4 areas. One is your team. Second is your romantic relationship. Third is your family. And fourth is with your friends. Okay, so let's start with the team. So how do you treat the members of your team? Say, first scenario, how do you treat the members of your team when you are more senior? Second, when you're on the same rank. And third, how do you treat the member of your team when you're on a lower rank? Okay, so maybe you can take a bit of time for each of us to just share, like for yourself, how is it like? I can start. So for me, if I'm more senior, I tend to try to take care of the person, the junior. And there is a part of me that thinks I know better. I realize, more and more that I always try to manage this part that thinks I know better, just because I'm like more senior, or I have done this job before, or I have walked this road before a bit more than this person. Because if I keep holding on to this, I know better, then it kind of limits the kind of possibilities that we have between us as well. But the part on taking care of the other person and trying to help them to grow, I guess that's good. Yeah. So if we are on the same rank, I tend to engage in more like discussions. So try to be like understand, different perspectives, and find the common goal and things like that. And if I'm on a lower rank, for myself at the moment, I still tend to follow even if I don't fully agree. And it takes quite a bit of reflection before and for me to feel strong enough about an issue before I come back. So after I follow, then I go back, think about it, then I'll come back with a next proposed solution to say, actually, I don't agree, and maybe we can do it differently. So so usually there's this lag time at the moment. That's where it is at present. How about 𝗫𝘂 and Audrey? How is it like, when you're in your team? How do you treat them when you're more senior, you're same rank, and when you're lower rank?
My team, because I work in a technology company, so there's no very obvious hierarchy. Everyone just treat each other in the same manner. And if let's say I'm more senior, senior as in maybe I have more experiences, I will just share what I know. Then if I'm on the same rank, actually basically I can't act the same when I'm more senior, same rank or lower rank. But I discovered that some other colleagues, they might have certain ranking system. So it's kind of best to play to certain rules. So meaning, right, depending on what's the objectives of the project, then I'll just be fluid and use it to my advantage, I think. Yeah. Because I think there's no point in terms of fighting uh you about some things that doesn't really matter. Because like for instance, right? So what if I have my own stand, but my stand might not really help the team to achieve the objective? Then in such a situation, I will kind of analyze like what's the rules, spoken and unspoken one. Then I just try to see how can I play to reach that objective. Yeah. Okay. It sounds a bit abstract. Let me think of an example. Mm,
If I could ask, so say if you are with someone who has a quite a strong perceived rank on things and think like maybe you are of lower rank than them, or and then but you think that they're of the same rank, because you tend to treat everyone the same, then how do you manage this situation?
at that point in time, cannot really manage because I'm unaware. So after, I think recently something like this happened. So I think someone like, I think we're on the same rank because like we came in on the same day. But then I think right, because his role as a manager, then maybe he think that his rank is higher. So because not sure is it an Asian thing. So he's kind of like he care about. So basically, while working on something, he actually don't know how to do it, but he don't want to ask me, even though I offer him help and I let him know what to do from step 1 to 5, because that's not his domain expertise. If although I share with him that, right, but I sense that he's quite defensive about it. He thinks that his rank is higher than me. So in the end, he just ignored my suggestion and he went ahead to do to continue with what he think is right, which in the end is actually wrong. Yeah. So I guess the part about treating everyone the same rank, even though they are kind of like so-called more senior than me, is it might be triggering for some people with certain ego. Yeah, which is not very productive in workplace because if I trigger this sense of like defensiveness in them, then they might feel that I don't want to work with you. Then they just want to do by themselves, which happened in this scenario. Yeah, so I think
Mm,
it's good to be aware of rank sometimes so that you play to your advantage.
yeah, like being aware of how others see the rank, how you see the
Yeah,
rank, and then how you can kind of navigate yourself to manage the situation.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, very good share. Thanks, Audrey. And Kainin, how about for you?
Yeah, I think I tend to be the kind of person who tries to treat everyone the same, but I think inevitably there will be some differences in how I treat people. So I realized that if I'm a bit more senior, what I tend to do is to share knowledge. But I also do realize that I tend to defer to the opinions of others. So even if I'm more senior in rank, I would ask everyone for their opinion first, and then we collectively come up with a decision. So that may not necessarily be the most productive sometimes, especially if we have differing opinions. However, I feel like because of that, I'm quite well liked even by my colleagues who are not at the as high a rank as me. So I guess that's good in a way. Yeah, and if I'm on the same rank, I think I'm quite casual with people actually, so I try to be more like friends with them. So same rank shouldn't be a big problem, I think the only issue is like when Audrey mentioned if somebody's on the same rank but they act as a higher rank, then I kind of feel a bit perturbed as well, because I feel like I don't really know how to react and I feel like I'm being talked down to. So actually my ideal situation is regardless of rank, just don't talk down to people and just treat everyone the same. I think that's my ideal situation. Currently, if I'm on the lower rank, I still conform to the societal hierarchies, right? So I would just like try to make things simple by listening to my boss or like kind of deferring to their opinion most of the time. I would occasionally speak up, but if let's say they are very insistent on their point, I will let it go as well. So there's good and bad. Of course, good is to keep the peace, and bad is that perhaps I should be a bit stronger on my stance, especially if I believe that my idea is more workable.
Okay. So I think you can move on to the next part. Very fun one. In your romantic relationship. Okay. So in your romantic relationship, how do you treat your partner if you think you're more dominant in that area? Okay, you might not be 100% dominant in everything, but you think you're more dominant in that area, then how do you treat your partner? Next one, if you think you're more submissive. And 3, if you think you're equal.
This one can skip me.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know. Meaningful silence. Okay, I can try. Yeah, it's actually quite a difficult question. If I'm more dominant, I tend to take the lead in that area that I'm more dominant in. And I would tend to try to get the other person to follow me in the way I'm doing things. Yeah, so I think that in a way makes me inflexible at times. So I recently discovered that I'm like trying to hold back and not over exert the dominance in areas that I think I'm dominant in. Then the next one is when I think I'm more submissive in the relationship, I tend to just follow, or I just give up my power and like, okay, you decide, I don't know anything, so you take lead in everything. And then I tend to just take a very laid back approach. That's my natural state. And what I've been trying to work on is to take a more proactive approach and take more initiative instead of just giving up my power and then become very laid back. And then if I think I'm equal in this case, I think this is really the best case scenario, because in situations where I am feeling like I'm equal, then I would be very proactive. At the same time, I would also be very open to different opinions, and try to find like mutual solutions to things instead of asserting only my view or just like giving up my view. I try to find like mutually like win-win situations and win-win ways going forward. Ning, how about for you?
Interesting topic of discussion, I think. I think if I'm more dominant in a subject matter, I do think that I'll tend to think that I'm correct. Yeah, which is like what Xuan say, right? Which is actually not very healthy also, because sometimes my partner might have very good opinions, but because I think that I'm naturally better in this area, I just kind of like dismiss what my partner says. So I think it's very important to note that, like, how do you make the other person feel, even if you are good in this particular aspect? Yeah, so I think that's something to be conscious about. If I think that I'm more like I don't know more things than my partner in certain areas, then I feel like, yeah, like what Xuan mentioned as well, I will become like, oh, okay lah, I let you handle, I let you do, and then I would not be as confident about my viewpoints, and I would tend to give up my ideas faster. So like if I pitch, okay, so let's say I'm not a very organized person in general, so that, and then my partner is like super organized. So sometimes like when we work together, right, I will try to organize my files in a certain way, and then he will say, no lah, why you do this way? And then I just like immediately say, okay, why not you do it? Because like I will give up very easily. And I do notice that, if I think that I'm weaker in certain things, I will give up more easily. I'll let the other party do. And that's why to me it's so important that both parties have something that they're strong in and weaker in. If not, there will always just be a continuous cycle of one person giving up everything to the other, and then there will be a huge power imbalance. Yeah. For those that I think that we are equal, nothing really comes to mind. Maybe cooking, because we are both equally bad at it. So when we cook, I mean, I just let him do whatever he wants, and he lets me do whatever I want, and we kind of trust each other to cook not very nice food, but it's still edible food. Yeah, so I think it's okay. A lot of freedom in that aspect. We don't really judge each other, and nothing much to criticize about. Yeah. So I think the main point is, don't be critical even when you're dominant, and even if you don't know more than the other person in certain aspects, don't like belittle yourself. Just know that your words and your opinions hold weight as well, and everybody has something to learn from each other, regardless of how experienced they are in that field.
I have a question. Because is this kind of related to complementary personality? Because I guess I heard from certain people that when they want to look for a partner, they look for a certain characteristic that partner is good in, then they are not so good in. For instance, right, like Ning's example, if like the first person isn't good in organizing, but the partner is very good in organizing. Then it kind of complement each other. Yeah. So is this related to power dynamics in any manner? Because it seems like the ideal power dynamic is actually a balance power.
Like underlying this whole thing is respect. So that when you say complementary relationships, I believe that the fundamentals should not be complementary. The fundamentals should be the same. So like for example, your value system, like for example, me and Bert, we both cherish kindness, or like helping other people, empathy. So this is our core that we are the same in. But then how do we manifest this? Like for example, we have a vision to help other people. Then we both need complementary skills in order to manifest our vision. So that to me is the complementary thing that is good for our relationship, but the core or fundamental should be the same. Yeah. So that's my viewpoint. And I think ultimately there should be respect already. Even with the power dynamics, right? The power dynamics only accentuates the current level of respect you have anyway. If the couple already respects each other and they still experience power dynamics, it's still possible to have a good working relationship because they already like commit to respecting one another.
I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. And another thing I was just pondering is that, say if one partner is, say, weaker in a particular area and the other partner is stronger in that area, and the stronger one becomes more dominant in this and says, okay, I want things to be done in this way. Say for example, if the dominant partner is good in, say, design, like, so it becomes like, the house that they build together, the whole design follows the partner that's good in design. And then the partner who has so-called like not good design becomes the submissive one and just, okay, I follow your design. And then as a result, that partner never had a chance to really express, what is it that they would like in the house, or how they would like it to be. So it became a very one-sided kind of thing, and that's a possible outcome. So when the person who's more submissive can say, I might not be very good in design, but I do like certain things, or being able to still voice out, and maybe how can you suggest we can place it such that it looks nice, then it becomes something a bit more like more two-way in a way, and working the skills instead of like you just giving up totally on that particular aspect. So it could not just be design, it could be other topics like food or finance. Yeah, so for finance, if one partner is good in finance and then this partner handles all the finance, then the other partner don't know anything that's happening because he let the other partner handle all the finance. Then it becomes also not very healthy in a way. That's how I feel. But still need to put in the effort, to, okay, I'm not good in finance, but I want to know what's happening. I want to learn. And the other partner is like willing to teach, or like, okay, let me share with you what's happening. So this starts bringing up the partner that's submissive, and it without the partner that's dominant become helpful to the partner that's submissive in this area. Yeah, so I think next part of the quiz is with your family. So with your family, how do you treat your family member when you think you're more dominant or capable? First one. Second one, when you think you're more submissive, or you have less capability or less power in that area. And the third one, when you think you're on equal, when they're equal. So I'm the eldest in the family. So I have people above me, like my parents. Then I have people so-called below. Yeah, so which is my younger siblings, right? So when I was younger and I felt like I was more dominant to my siblings, then I tended to be more like, I try to teach them whatever I know and share with them everything that I know. And also try to make them do things the way that I learned. I thought I learned from my parents how to do things. I want them to do it in the same way. So it's like, passing the baton, like, okay, I learned how to do it in this way, and then you have to learn how to do it in this way. That kind of dynamic was quite strong initially in the early years. Then over the years, it became more equal in a sense. So I respect that they have a different way of doing things or seeing things, and that we can learn from each other. And when I feel in some ways, sometimes I'm more submissive, not just to my parents, but sometimes also to my siblings, because there are areas I'm like less good in compared to them. With parents, it's more like a rank, parents and child kind of rank in an Asian family. So in the more submissive position, I just tend to follow and just and if there's something I disagree with, then I'm just angry with it, but I keep it to myself, and I just like like resign, like I cannot do anything about it, so let's just follow kind of thing. And I think over the years, more and more I try to bring it to equal, from submissive towards equal. Yeah, to try to voice out or try to propose changes or try to say maybe you can do it in another way. Yeah. How about 𝗫 and Audrey? How is it with your family?
Interesting. So I'm also the oldest sibling. I think all three of us are the oldest sibling. Yeah, I have a younger brother. So I think with my brother, I've always been more dominant, and I still am. I think haven't really like neutralized the thing. So I mean, I'm still giving him like advice in terms of what to study. Of course, not like imposing it on him, but sharing with him like more of knowledge sharing. So, but of course, my brother is also like building up his own knowledge and opinions about things, and he would share that with me sometimes as well. So I would think that so-called my dominance is more in terms of knowledge of what I have, but I think pretty soon he's gonna like totally override me, so it's really okay. I think I'm not too particular about that, because I think this is just about knowledge sharing. I think with my parents it's interesting. So I think in the past I was like more submissive, because they are like older, and then they kind of like brought me up, right? But recently it does seem like the tables have turned a little bit, and we are becoming like a bit like equals, I think, because they do ask me for my opinion about things and ask me to help them to do certain things as well. So I do see that there's a little bit of dynamic power shift as well. But my nature with my family is that I'm like more towards the giving side, so I don't really impose my ideas on anybody, to be honest. So even though I see the shift, right, I don't really take advantage of this power shift. I think I still kind of kind of like whatever they say, I'll just agree with them. I don't really like to like cause like ruffles. I think it's typical Asian family, right? You just want to keep like things nice on the surface as well. Yeah, so I think with my family, pretty interesting. We're all equalizing. I look forward to the day that we are all equals. I think it'll be a very interesting dynamic to see.
I am the elder sis. So during my childhood, I'm quite dominant towards my siblings. So order them to do things and stuff, trying to establish the rank of an elder sister. Yeah, but when we grew up, this kind of thing is all these like rules. We abolish it. Yeah. Then nowadays is quite equal. But I also realized that when we feel that every one of us is equal, my mom don't like this equal relationship. She wants to be the dominant one, because she feel that, oh, like she's the mom, we have to listen to her, but we don't really listen to her. Yeah, so there's this like dissatisfaction. Yeah, so yeah. Other than that, it's quite equal.
Yeah, so it's like if both parties sees the rank differently,
Yeah,
then
which is the
it's
issue.
yeah, and it's actually quite difficult to go from the dominant one to being kind of demoted to equal,
Demoted.
or expected to be submissive in certain ways. Like just follow, I'll just follow my suggestion. Your suggestion doesn't make sense and things like that. And I think next one is with your friends. So how is it like with your friends? Do you think like when you feel more dominant or more submissive or equal with your friends?
I think personally for me with friends, different friends have different kind of I mean, I have different relationships with different friends, right? So I do realize that I tend to just react to what my friends are currently. So for example, if my friends are the more like follower kind of people, then I would just step out to be like the leader in that group. But if among my friends they have already somebody who's like very leader based, then I'll just follow. So I realized I'm like kind of like a chameleon in this situation. Don't really have a fixed type. Yeah, I can be equal or dominant or submissive depending on what my current friendship is like. Yeah, so I do realize that I'm a very different person in a lot of friendships. A lot of them might not think that I'm the same person. Yeah, so pretty interesting. So I haven't really kind of like I mean, it's good and bad in a way, right? So you might think that it's a bad thing because you might think that I'm not being authentic, but then actually in this situation, it's just basically being flexible, I think. So maybe it depends on how you see the situation.
I'm also quite flexible. Different friends have different dynamics. So I think a certain group of friends, they are kind of like more passive, more submissive. Then sometimes I'll take a lead, sometimes I don't. So I feel that it depends on circumstances. Most of the time, I feel that it's an equal relationship. Yeah. Then I think like for friends who are kind of like more dominant, I would just let's just go with them. Like, oh, then I'll just be laid back and just be chill. Yeah.
I feel when I was younger, a lot of my relationship was with friends was quite dominant, submissive, meaning they are dominant and then I'm submissive. So I used to be picked up by friends in school, and then they're usually the more dominant one. Then they'll pick a more submissive one, and then I tend to become the friend to take up that position, the submissive friend. So I'll follow around, kind of be taken care of, but also not really having much say in anything. So I get invited to a lot of places and all that, but it was usually like I'm just following. Then as I grew older, I think I started to have more. For a while, I started to be more dominant for a period of time. Yeah, so my friends would just kind of follow my lead. So I'm the one organizing all the gatherings, getting things moving, organizing the trips, things like that. And now it has come to more equal, so thankfully. So now it's more give and take and more equal kind of relationship with my friends, and not saying that who is more dominant or more submissive over the other friend. So anything else that you want to share, related to rank from this exercise that we've been doing so far? I think for me, what I'm kind of realizing as we are talking is that ideally we want to go towards a more same rank kind of situation in each of the scenarios, be it with your team, in romance, with your family and your friends. And it might not always be the case, but we're kind of striving and trying to go towards that. And also striving towards, hopefully, the people around us can also see things the same way. And in the event that they don't, to be aware of that and to decide how you want to manage that situation. Do you want to go against their perception of the rank, or do you want to work with their perception of the rank, or adjust things along the way? Okay.
Actually, I have one
go
last
ahead.
point.
Yes.
Actually, I think our goal is not, I mean, I personally feel that society's goal is not really to be moving towards equality in terms of, I mean, this is a very unpopular opinion maybe, but then like I think the society will be a bit like messed up if everyone strives towards like exactly being equal and having equal say, because ultimately, like, in order to be productive and to function like quickly or like move things forward, like you mentioned, right? I think there's usually a dynamic that will end up happening. So like there'll be one person who is more dominant and takes the lead, and then other people follow, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the bad thing happens is if the dominant person doesn't respect the other people's opinions or respect them in general lah. So I think the ideal situation is, even like for companies or for relationships, right? It's okay to take the lead, but only if you kind of don't put the other person down. Yeah, so I think power dynamics is okay actually. It's just that it's a finer line to thread lah. in terms of, how respectful you are to the other person who is perceived weaker.
Power dynamics actually is neutral. It's more of the imbalance in power that's usually the source of conflict or the source of issues in relationships, like imbalance, dominant, submissive, or yeah.
Yeah, very interesting point brought up on the respect. I feel like what hit me is the respect that you need to have. Whether you are the dominant one or whether you're the submissive one in that situation, it's more of having respect for the different opinions, but also taking into account what is needed for things to move forward as well. And not just trying to make things equal for the sake of equality itself. Yeah. Okay. This is a sensitive topic, and I think we all have our different views on it.